Choice, your creative superpower. We have the power to manifest as we dedicate attention to our thoughts, but often miss opportunity to achieve the greatest good. Your superpower is waiting to be unleashed to unlock a fuller, more rewarding world for all. Join us every Thursday at noon Mountain Time for Choice, your creative superpower with Zoe Muro. And now, here's Zoe.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the New Thought Media Network. My name is Zoe Muro, and I am delighted and honored to be your host for Choice, your creative superpower, coming to you from Oakland, California. We're here each Thursday at 12 noon Mountain Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time. If you're coming back, it's great to see you here again. If this is your first time, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Now, as a religious science practitioner, excuse me, as a religious science practitioner, I have a ministry. And as a and as somebody who can't speak, and as a transformational coach, I have a mission. And both are to help people live their lives to the fullest. Oh, hey, Shay. Good to see you. Yes, blessings to everyone. So we're going to see, just how much I can keep my voice today, keep my mind, and keep your attention. All right. So I said that I am a religious science practitioner. I'm a transformational coach. And my intent in both of these exploits, in both of these callings, because they are indeed callings, are to help people to live their lives to the fullest. It's that simple. Well, it's that straightforward. What do we do here on this show? Well, what we do is we explore how wielding your superpower for the greatest good can co-create a most fulfilling life experience. And to that end, in episode 78, today's episode, we'll be exploring the relationship between choice and mindfulness. I absolutely love this topic. It's definitely one that has many different meanings and many different outcomes. It actually can be quite polarizing. There are those who swear by the practice of mindfulness, and there are others who feel absolutely overwhelmed by it. Today, what I want to do is explore its meaning, its definition, how it can help or hurt us, and of course, getting a better understanding of how our choices and mindfulness can affect one another. Dictionary definitions of mindfulness read more or less like this. Bring this up. Okay. Excuse me. Awareness of one's internal states and surroundings. The practice of being aware of your body, mind, and feelings in the present moment. A way of training your mind to concentrate on the present. That last one is quite interesting. Certainly not where the concept necessarily began, but absolutely points to some really important aspects. So while the first definition is the most straightforward and it's basically matter of fact, the second and third are expressing something that is very important, that mindfulness is not simply an action, but it's a process that can be put into practice. But quite frankly, none of these really express the why, right? Why would we care about mindfulness? essentially, well, what's in it for me? Well, basic awareness, if you will, of what's going on around us, sometimes really important, and other times it's absolutely crucial. Awareness of what's going on internally, one's thoughts, one's feelings. Well, knowing what we do about the importance of thoughts, it could be just as important as one's surroundings. If we were to approach mindfulness from just that one aspect of awareness of what's going on within and outside of us, we would benefit significantly. But there's a lot more that can come from engaging in and becoming proficient at this practice. For example, let me bring this one up. Mindfulness can inform our choices, and our choices can strengthen our mindfulness. So, by incorporating mindfulness into our daily lives, we can make choices that lead to greater fulfillment, well-being, and harmony. By making conscious choices that support mindfulness, we can cultivate greater presence, clarity, and well-being in our lives. Seems like a win-win across the board. Well, when we consciously make an effort to be aware of what's going on both within us and around us, we make more informed and therefore better choices, because we're basing this on a wider and a deeper base of knowledge. When we're unaware of either what's going on within us or around us, we're likely to make assumptions that could lead to far less encouraging results. Take this down. Think of mindfulness as like a magnifier or as a tuner, right? By being mindful, we can see more detail. We can tune out distractions. We gain greater clarity. Let's face it. Why would you want to make a choice without having as much clarity as possible for that particular situation? I have to say, though, that despite the recent upsurge in talk about mindfulness, pretty much everything else in our world these days seems to be dead set against mindfulness. Okay, are you ready? Here comes the old guy rant. Old guy rant of the week. When I was a boy, well, actually, I don't even need to go back that far to find examples of how quiet everyday life was compared to today. Case in point, the telephone was in nearly all households prior to 1960, and the answering machine. If you missed a phone call, you missed a phone call. Prior to 1983 and the cell phone, your phone and your answering machine were stuck at home or in the office. Well, we did have pagers, though, in the late 70s and early 80s. The point is, though, we got along perfectly well without being instantly available. Okay? But let's not stop there. We have 24/7 availability of music, television, movies, news, and we carry it in our pocket. And it never leaves our side. There are people who sleep with their phones. We have social media alerting us to everything that we're connected to in any way, shape, or form, and a whole bunch that we're not connected to. And these things are up every single day, all day. Okay. Virtually instantaneous email as opposed to snail mail, which could take days or even weeks to reach us. It's a virtual shock and awe of communication, information, marketing, right? And a whole lot of distractions. And many of us, if not most of us, willingly, consciously choose to buy into this the word maelstrom, maelstorm, however you pronounce that, comes to mind. And many of us, if not most of us, we do this unconsciously as well. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You get up in the morning, take care of your personal needs, and you grab your phone to check the weather. And, well, right next to that is the calendar, so you check your calendar. Oh, but wait, there are some messages. Oh, and a number of emails came through overnight. Oh, we might as well check into social media while I'm here. I mean, on, what's that link? Oh, that's cool. That's a funny video. Oh, and that video reminds me of this other video. And 30 minutes or more have simply disappeared. With a mindful alternative to this morning mayhem, we can begin our day in a more conscious and appreciative way. What's important on a work day, on a weekend day, a vacation day, or even a sick day? There are different needs, different priorities, but the same us. We only have so much attention, so much energy and time. Mindfulness can enable us to use our precious resources far more effectively. Being mindful can bring about greater self-awareness, which is key to our understanding our motivations, our thoughts, our feelings. And in a world that allows for instant communication, seemingly demands it, right? Being mindful of all of the factors that are operating on us before replying to a text or an email can make a tremendous difference in any number of situations. Being mindful allows us to understand ourselves better, but it also enables us to understand others as well. It can create space between trigger and response. Why is that important? Because that allows us time to process. It encourages curiosity. It enables openness, all of which can result in a more balanced, appropriate, and, if necessary, compassionate response. And with all of that operating in our consciousness, we can be better partners, better coworkers, attendees, members, et cetera, et cetera. There's a baseball movie that came out a bunch of years ago called For the Love of the Game. A pitcher played by Kevin Costner stands at the mound and he's ready to deliver a pitch, and he's surrounded by this perfect storm of distractions. There's people jumping up and down, shouting and cursing and waving banners and yelling at him, and you name it. His response to this, he says, "Clear the mechanism." And with those words, he reminds himself of his need for mindfulness as he shuts out the noise, shuts out the sights, shuts out everything except the target of his catcher's mitt. In real life, with mindfulness, likewise, we can clear the mechanism and we can make choices that are in alignment with our values, that are emotionally appropriate, that are compassionate without sacrificing our own boundaries, and which can help us avoid stressful situations and misunderstandings. tremendous benefit towards the choices that we make on a regular basis. Now, what can we do to ensure that our choices enhance and support our mindfulness? Right? Because mindfulness it just doesn't simply appear. All right. I would say it's probably something that we are born with, most definitely. I mean, we want to know and understand everything because we know and understand nothing. But that changes over time. As we become more and more aware of more and more things and we become more comfortable in ourselves, right? Then the mindfulness aspect starts to drift away. By the time we're adults, we have played games with mindfulness and we have played games with distraction. And we have probably, I would say, in most cases, we're not exactly winning that, that battle. So what we need to be able to do is find ways to enhance our mindfulness, find ways to make that such a common and easy way for us to do things that it becomes our standard. So, first and foremost, there has to be a choice to pursue mindfulness. Okay? Plain and simple. I mean, mindfulness is definitely a choice. Come to think of it, though, maybe choosing to define mindfulness is actually your first choice. I mean, if someone offers you a taste of something called bouillabaisse, but you have absolutely no idea what it is, you'd like to want to know something about it before ingesting it. So, having decided what mindfulness means in and for your life, I don't know where the bouillabaisse thing came from. I don't know. But having decided what mindfulness means in and for your life, and with the understanding that mindfulness is a practice, a way of being as much as a way of doing, the next choice that you make might be prioritization or understanding your intentionality. By that, I mean, once we have determined that there is a benefit to mindfulness, and we have decided that this is something that we want to pursue, choosing to take the necessary steps that would enable us to understand both the external situation or circumstance as well as our internal thought patterns and our emotions evolved, doing so consistently and consciously, we create a pattern of discernment which elevates our choice-making process. And we've spoken about habits in the past. We know that the more that we practice something, the more that we become proficient at something, the greater the possibility that it can become a habit. And we know that habits can be beneficial or detrimental. So being able to encourage our growth of beneficial habits, always a win. Sometimes what we choose in order to encourage mindfulness is not what we do, but rather what we do not do. Which brings me to one of my absolute favorite topics, multitasking. Multitasking. Wonderful topic. Let me bring this up. Now, you can probably tell by the big thumbs down at the bottom that I'm not a big fan of multitasking. You'll see on this particular slide, if you're watching this, that part of this is in blue, part of this is in black. The part that's in blue are things that are factual, Absolutely. No two ways about it. This is the way this works. The parts that are in black are things that might pertain to you. So we'll start with the absolutes. Multitasking is trying to perform two or more tasks at the same time. Okay. Trying. Because it forces one's brain to rapidly switch between tasks. Okay. So that's the huge myth about multitasking, that it exists. Multitasking exists if you're a computer. Why? Because a computer has literally multiple brains, right? CPUs, processors. We do not. We only have the one. So for us to be able to quote unquote multitask, what we have to do is switch back and forth between tasks. And we do it instantaneously in many cases. But that constant switching definitely taxes the brain. Okay. Now, from this point onward, these are all things that are possibilities. All right. And for some of us, they happen all the time when we multitask. For others, they happen occasionally. And for yet others, they don't seem to be bothered by it. But it doesn't mean that they are literally multitasking. It simply means that they have a greater tolerance for the action of the brain. Okay. But as we said, switching does tax the brain. It can tire it out. And if it gets tired, that makes it less efficient. It can also, multitasking can also make your life distracted and your actions prone to errors. It can even temporarily increase your stress levels, which raises your blood pressure and your heart rate. So literally, it can have a detrimental effect on your health, both your body health and your brain health. Okay. And this is the wonderful process that so many people think they need in their lives. Hardly. In all fairness, no, if you're vacuuming and listening to music on your headphones, that's not going to wreak havoc in your life. But there are other aspects of mindfulness which might add another level of awareness and presence, even to mundane, everyday tasks. Consider what practicing mindfulness while doing chores can do for you. I mean, it can literally transform them from being mundane, routine tasks into opportunities for relaxation, focus, and even personal growth. I know it sounds odd, but by cultivating awareness and presence in everyday tasks, we can experience greater satisfaction, reduce stress, and enhance sense of well-being. I mean, think of this as mindfulness training, right? It's like a mindfulness training exercise. By observing the details of a task, focusing on each movement or action, we can actually become more thorough and meticulous in other tasks of higher importance and of greater complexity. Again, it's that concept of being able to practice the concept of mindfulness. And even in the smallest way, every time we do that, we have created for ourselves a greater sense of the process, and we see its benefit. In 1990, and I think it was updated in 2013 or 2016, somewhere around there, Jon Kabat-Zinn wrote the exceptional book entitled Full Catastrophe Living, using the wisdom of your body and mind to face stress, pain, and illness. And in that book, he presented a number of practices to bring about a level of mindfulness which could be truly, truly life-changing. It's well worth reading. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that there can be a downside to mindfulness. Depending on the individual and the circumstances, focusing too strongly can become a source of distress, or can create a rut from which it's very difficult to escape. However, as is the case with any tool, any process, any medication, any procedure, there are optimal ways and times they can be applied, and others where they're better avoided. For example, really important to avoid confusing obsessing with mindfulness. Okay, definitely not the same. Because in essence, when you're obsessing, what you're doing is you're closing yourself off to only this one element. All right. And if it's something that you have struggled with in the past, something that you have found yourself getting caught in, and all you're doing is returning to that same situation, not mindfulness. Okay. Furthermore, as is the case with any practice that's meant to improve our life experience, if it is causing you distress, then something is out of alignment and needs to be rethought, needs to be reconsidered. I mean, not every practice works for every person. And just because you name a practice and say, I'm doing this or I'm doing that, doesn't necessarily mean that you are following it in the best possible way for you. I want to close this out today with this quote from organizational psychiatrist Dr. Patrick K. Hyland and his associates, Professor R. Andrew Lee and Dr. Muro J. Miles. Let me find this here. Here we go. So these folks were working at Columbia, and this is what they came up with looking at mindfulness. They said most of the time, our perception is limited by our attention span, fragmented by continuous distractions, distorted by our biases, assumptions, and expectations, and regularly hijacked by our emotional reactivity. Any of that sound familiar? Mindfulness is the capacity to perceive our world clearly without adulteration or manipulation. That sounds pretty good. So I would strongly encourage you to think about the ways in which in your life you are mindful, ways in which your life that you might struggle with mindfulness, ways in your life in which you might consider that rather than being mindful, you are being perhaps obsessive or caught in some sort of a trap, often emotional, based on past experiences. If you discover that that is the case, be happy because you are being mindful. You're understanding something, and now you have this opportunity to make a change. So, I encourage you to really consider what it takes for you to be mindful and how you can increase your mindfulness and bring about just an easier, more graceful way of living your life. So, if there's something that you would like to talk about further about mindfulness, or if there's anything that you would like me to discuss on this show, by all means, let me know. I am most certainly available to discuss any of those things. I am also available for speaking engagements, for discussion, for prayer, whatever might be a real benefit. You can reach me at zodemuro@gmail.com. And I would be delighted to hear from you. So, with that, let me suggest that we have all sorts of wonderful things going on today on the New Thought Media Network. 1 p.m. Mountain Time. Reverend Gina Colario-Kripke, just a delightful person, delightful soul. She presents for The Joy is in the Journey. And her special guest today is Karen Drucker. Should be a great show. 2 p.m. today. This is Mountain Time. Vibrant Living Hour with Practitioner Ken Ludwig. 4 p.m. Mountain Time today. Reverend Brock Ford presents his spiritual toolkit. So, if there is anything that you find on the New Thought Media Network that resonates with you, that really has helped you bring about a greater sense of your spiritual identity and helped you along your spiritual path, we could use your help. If you could go to ntmedia.org/donate, you can help us with a monthly donation or a one-time donation. It could be something huge. It could be something tiny. Whatever it is, it helps us to spread the word of New Thought, to spread, more importantly, the power and the joy of New Thought. That is what we do here on the New Thought Media Network. So I look forward to seeing you again next week. And until then, I encourage you to choose well, to choose wisely, and to know without a doubt, that you are powerful, you are loved, and you are love. Namaste.
Choice, your creative superpower. We have the power to manifest as we dedicate attention to our thoughts, but often miss opportunity to achieve the greatest good. Your superpower is waiting to be unleashed to unlock a fuller, more rewarding world for all. Join us every Thursday at noon Mountain Time for Choice, your creative superpower with Zo DeMuro.